They really crossed the line this time, didn't they? I nodded. Past the point of no return? She asked quietly. I don't know, but it seems so to me. I'm really sorry. I tried to tell them, but I think they thought it was necessary if you and Karen wanted to have a future together. Billy, even though they're a pain in the ass, they really love you. For her part, so does Karen. But not enough to respect my wishes, right? I barked. Whether they thought my decision was childish, just stubborn, or just plain wrong, it was my decision, not theirs. This shows the lack of respect they have for me. At least the kids weren't part of it, although I'm a little surprised by your role. Well, I know that both Katie and Mary told them they wouldn't participate. Both told all three that it was a very bad idea and begged them not to do it. Brad was immersed in a big school project and didn't seem to understand what was going on. This is not surprising since he is completely focused on his studies and is trying to finish his studies at the end of the semester. As for me, everything is very simple. I looked at the woman who had been my world for over 2 decades and saw her squirm uncomfortably. There was a deep sadness in her that she never had while we were married. For some reason, it didn't give me the satisfaction I expected. Billy, she said with a sad smile, no matter what I say, and no matter how you react to my words, it will not worsen our relationship. I've already lost you. You already hate me, so I have nothing left to lose. When your parents asked me to do this, I initially refused them. Even though I had nothing to lose, I didn't want to hurt you anymore. Then Karen visited me, and we talked for a long time. She asked me to at least talk to you. I told her exactly what I was going to tell you. And although she didn't like it, she agreed that I should be honest. I told her that she was playing with fire, and no matter what I say or how you react to it, she could still easily lose you. Unfortunately, she had to do this. She really loves you, but she's afraid that you still have strong feelings for me. This is fear, plain and simple. The kids told me things about her and her past, and I'm sure a lot of it comes from there. We both stood looking at each other in awkward silence. Finally, I took a deep breath. Okay, Deirdre, I gave in. Say what you need to say. How do we do this? Billy, could you take a walk with me in the backyard? I nodded silently, trying not to show my feelings. We walked silently through my parents' huge backyard, away from prying ears. She broke the silence with a whisper. Sorry, Billy, you didn't deserve this. And now, she sighed sadly. Now I'll complicate everything. She smiled faintly at my surprise. Billy, I was a fool, in so many ways. I knew I lost you when I slept with Mr. Jordan, but I never tried to show you how sorry I was. I saw it as futile, so I didn't try. But I was wrong. When we broke up, I felt so guilty that I tried to fulfill your wish, and we didn't communicate. I did this mainly to give you a break so you could try to figure out what you need to do. Unfortunately, it didn't work. I knew that many of our friends and relatives asked you not to divorce me. I tried to dissuade them, but it seems that I passed for a repentant sinner and only made things worse. Oh, I was truly remorseful and would have done anything to take back my stupidity and save our marriage. But my remorse seemed to spur on your parents and some of our friends. I'm sorry they made you feel like you had to put up a wall and never talk to me again. This is where I was wrong. I looked at her silently for several seconds. My embarrassment was obvious, and she smiled sadly. Even though I tried to give you space, I couldn't do one thing that would help us both heal afterwards. Whether it was hopeless or not, I had to do something, anything, to show you how much you meant to me. I started to say something, but she interrupted. I know it wouldn't have stopped the divorce, but it might have helped us live better after it. I had to make sure you saw that I was truly sorry, and I would have some peace of mind knowing that at least I tried to show you that. I can't tell you how much I regretted not doing this. How many times have I started calling you and arranging a meeting where I could at least try to talk to you, but you cut off all communication with me. I floundered for months trying to find a way to approach you, but then you met Karen. The kids told me a little about her and how she affects you. I can't say that I wasn't jealous, but then I realized that you had left. I also tried to move on. I wasn't as successful as you. Part of my problem was that I needed to end things with you. I needed to tell you something, but I didn't know how. Then this opportunity came along and I was given a second chance to at least correct this mistake, even if I couldn't change any of the others. So Billy? She gently took my hand. Looking at me, tears filled her eyes as she began to release the pain and disappointment that had been buried for so long. My husband, she said quietly. And for me, you will always be my husband. I'm so sorry. I can't imagine the disappointment and pain I caused you. I'm ashamed of my actions and that they destroyed the most precious thing in my life, our marriage. And yes, it was the most precious thing, but I took my eyes off its guard. Instead of protecting him, I looked only at myself. At the same time, I allowed him to be poisoned. One evening, I destroyed our family. I ruined our future. Because of me, our children had to divide their time between mother and father instead of just enjoying us as a family. I fought to comprehend what I heard. If I thought my mind was in chaos, it was nothing compared to my heart. What do you want, Deirdre? What are you hoping for? What I want is a chance to come back into your life. I hope this little trick they pulled will make you question whether you want to spend the rest of your life with Karen. You think I'm going to leave Karen and take you back? She smiled. I won't lie, but I know that won't happen. I know you, and I know that little stunt has damaged your relationship with Karen more than she realizes. I hope that after this, your relationship with her will not be exclusive. I pray that you will start dating other women again and allow me to become one of them. Billy, forgive me for this ambush, but not for myself, because I can finally bare my soul. But for you. Whatever you decide to do, please make sure that you are doing it for yourself and not for anyone else. I know you have a lot to think about, so I'll leave you alone. I love you, Billy. Whatever you decide will remain forever. She touched my arm softly as she passed by. I looked into her eyes and saw in them a tired sadness mixed with relief. I felt the same tiredness, but no relief. I sat on the bench on the patio, stunned by Deirdre's confession and proposal. I finally asked myself whether there could be any relationship with my ex-wife at all, even if I wanted one. I heard the patio door open and felt Karen cautiously approach me. Her timid voice made me focus back on my fiancé, the woman who claimed to love me. Bill? I didn't look up. I tried my best to separate my thoughts from my emotions, afraid they would flare up. Bill, are we okay? No, I answered quietly. And what you ask says a lot about our relationship. I know, she said, holding back sobs. I'm really sorry. The problem is that you're not sorry enough for doing this to me. Even now, you would do it to me again, right? I'm sorry, Bill, she said quietly and sobbed. But I really needed to know this. I know, I interrupted her, that I loved you more than my ex-wife, and I told you about it more than once. I think actions speak louder than words, right? We were both silent for a few moments, trying to say what needed to be said. Finally, I took a deep breath and looked at her. Sorry, Karen. I tried, I said quietly. I tried to give you every reason to trust me, but you couldn't. I think the fear and doubt from your past are so strong that you are unable to trust. No, she screamed. It is not true. Today, you showed me that I can trust you. You did something very hard and painful, and you did it for us. No, I sighed. I did it for you. All those earlier things, like couples counseling, the ones I did for us. But today was all for you. So now you're telling me that I passed some test, that's all well and good, but I have to ask, at what cost? I'm really sorry, Bill. I needed to know for sure. That's the problem. You needed it, but what about my needs? Karen, you're not the only one with trust issues. You say you can trust me now, but now it's obvious that I can't trust you. If I passed my test, then you failed yours. Today, Your fears and insecurities have surpassed your imaginary love for me. What happens next week if something makes you doubt me or even us? What hoops will I have to jump through to gain your trust again? Karen, I said quietly, I can't live like this. I am not strong enough to carry this load alone, even for a while. Maybe I can do this in the future, but not now. Bill, please, I'm so sorry, she said in a trembling voice. I'm sorry. Of course I forgive you, I said calmly. But you knew that I would forgive, didn't you? You probably even counted on it to justify your actions. She nodded slightly and lowered her head in embarrassment. But things are different now, aren't they? She whispered. I nodded. So what do we have left? I sat in silence. I was tired, very tired. I was exhausted. I didn't want to be angry anymore. I didn't want to be betrayed either. I don't know. I know the engagement is broken, but whether we still date is up to you. Bill, it's not fair. I know I hurt you. No, I don't think you know. I lost my temper. Maybe if I contact your ex-husband and son and arrange a surprise weekend for you three. Of course, I won't tell you about this until you arrive. Then you could overcome any problems you still have with them. I looked into her eyes and saw understanding dawning in them. Her tears soon followed. Of course, then I'll tell you that it was for your own good, and then I'll remind you how proud I am of you for facing your demons. Maybe then you will understand how much it hurts me. Now, her tears flowed freely. I was surprised that I had no desire to rush to her aid. I was probably in a daze. I'm so sorry, she sobbed quietly. Me too, I sighed. Now I have to start all over again. Do you still love me? She asked weakly. Yes, I think so. To be honest, I don't know what to think right now. I know I still care about you, but everything has changed, and I don't know how. You know that I love you, right? I probably shouldn't ask this question now, but yes, I believe that you love me as much as you can now. As much as I can, she asked quietly. I nodded. But that's not enough, is it? I would be lying if I said that was the case. Maybe someday our love will become stronger, if that's what we both want. But in the meantime, we'll go back to just dating? I sighed. I think it will be better this way. So, will you date her too? Deirdre? I do not know, maybe. I had never even thought about it before, and certainly not during the conversation. I guess as things stand now, I'll have to decide what to do with her. Listen, Karen, I'm very tired. I need to go home and pack some things. Luckily, I still have an apartment, so I'll stay there until we figure everything out. I'll call you in a few days, and we'll decide what to do next. I stood up and hugged her. I felt the moisture of her tears on my chest. I kissed her on the top of her head, pulled away and kissed her softly on the lips. Goodbye, Karen, I said, and returned to my parents' house. I knew I had to tell them something. Deirdre called it closure. My mind was racing, but I could hear the quiet sobs of my ex-fiancé behind me. I found both parents in the kitchen. Their looks told me what to expect. The mother looked worried but determined, while the father seemed barely able to contain his anger. This meant that my mother would try to justify their actions, while my father would tell me to just forget about it. It was a routine they had for most of my life. Unfortunately, it was about to end. Well, Mom began, it wasn't so bad now, was it? I think it depends on the point of view, I replied calmly. From my point of view, it was very painful. Sometimes it hurts to do the right thing, my father grumbled. You know, yes, I sighed. That's why everything is so difficult. Not only was it very difficult for me to talk to Deirdre, but it was even more painful to be stabbed in the back by those I had previously trusted. This will not happen again. Oh no, honey, it wasn't like that at all, Mom began. Of course it was, I intervened. I said no, but you still had to do it. Regardless of my wishes or the fact that it was my decision, you decided that what you thought was best should be shoved down my throat. But like I said, it won't happen again. I thought you two learned something when you sent Rose and Monica away, but apparently not. You either can't or don't want to stop. So, just like with my sisters, this is goodbye. I am very sorry that you will not have any of your children with you in your old age, but this is the price you have to pay for bullying and constant attempts to manipulate them. Don't you dare threaten us, boy, the father barked. That's not a threat, I snapped. I'll just get it over with. If it makes you feel better, I'll send a card from time to time. Until then, don't try to call or contact me. I won't answer. With these words, I turned and left my parents' house for what I suspected was the last time. Behind me, I could hear my mother's pleas and cries, drowned out by my father's swearing and screams. This circus of interference is finally over. I would like to say that everything calmed down later, but that would not be true. I cut off all contact with my parents, even canceled my home phone number and got a different cell number. Of course, that didn't stop them from trying to corner me at home or at work. It didn't help that the few times I got back together with Karen, my relationship with my parents became the main topic of discussion each time. That wasn't the only reason we stopped dating. It became painfully clear to both of us that everything we had was slowly dying. Ultimately, she was not emotionally healthy enough to help me overcome my mistrust of her. It wasn't malicious, but it was what it was. Our final breakup was mutually expected. After that, I decided I needed to take a clean break. I tried to get a transfer, but my company was not some global corporation, so there were only a few options and they were not available. I applied for and accepted a similar position at a much lower salary, a couple states away. I met Deirdre once before I left. I met her and Brad for lunch and informed them of my upcoming departure. The news did not please them, but it did not surprise them either. My parents bombarded our children. Our daughters were far enough away that they avoided the mess by simply blocking certain phone numbers. Brad wasn't so lucky. When we met, he told me that he was upset that he was forced to make such decisions. I understood, but my heart was still drawn to him. I didn't want to put my son in that position, but I'm not sure circumstances would have allowed it otherwise. He eventually cut off contact with them too. Before I left, Deirdre asked if I had thought about her proposal, and I replied that I had. I asked if I could visit her when I returned to town. She smiled and said she really hoped so. I made my way out of the city without much fanfare and found myself becoming accustomed to my surroundings. Several months had passed and I was enjoying my new job, although money was tight. I even went on a few dates, although they didn't promise to be more than one night. There were two women I dated several times. Celia was an attractive woman I met at work. She was a few years older than me, but in great shape, because she was really into yoga. Lori was a cute little blonde divorcee in her early 40s. She was very fat, but she had very beautiful blue eyes and a beautiful face. I was sitting with a glass of wine, contemplating my current status, when I heard a knock on my apartment door. When I answered, I realized that everything would change again. "Hi," she said quietly. "I was wondering if I could bother you a little. I'm thinking about renting one of the apartments in this complex, but would like to talk to some of the current residents first. Do you mind if I come in?" She didn't have the body or looks to stop the movement, but she made my heart skip a beat. She was a tall, thin brunette with shoulder-length hair and matte golden tips. Large glasses with gold wire frames made her eyes appear even larger. They also reinforced the ever-changing looks of hope and determination, doubt and fear that danced in her eyes. "Deirdre," I said quietly, "what are you doing here?" "Well, after my big speech about my actions, I thought it would be hypocritical of me not to try to show you that I still think very seriously about you. And you kind of asked me out on a date before you left. Deirdre, I asked if I could visit you when I got back to town." "Yes, but it takes you too long to come back," she said with a shy smile. "Billy," she said, her voice hoarse with emotion, "I'm trying to find my balance. On the one hand, I want to give you the opportunity to start over, but on the other hand, I need to make sure you know how much I want to show you that we can still have some kind of future. I know I'm not very good at balancing, and I'm probably already on the verge of stalking mania, but I need you to know. If you want, I'll start over too. I know our marriage is dead, but I believe we still have feelings for each other. I'd like to see where we could go if we started dating again. Deirdre is moving into my apartment complex. Well, that was a remark. Oh, I'd be very happy to rent an apartment here, but I thought it might bother you. I'm actually staying at a local motel right now. This morning, I was interviewed for a position in the area. The position is solid, even if it is a level below where I am now, but it looks like I can regain that level within a year or two. They offered me a job, but I asked them to give me a couple of days because I needed to talk to you first. Deirdre, when we divorced, I stopped influencing your decisions. In fact, I lost influence even before that. Her face wrinkled slightly and she looked away. Turning around, she looked me straight in the eyes. You're right, of course, but I'm trying to change that. If you don't want me here, I'll leave and won't bother you anymore. Look, Billy, I'm trying to start over. I started by changing my appearance a little and am planning to move. No matter what you decide, I needed to move on from the past and start over. I have 3 more interviews scheduled in other cities for the end of this month. There is a very good chance that I will take one of those positions, but I would really like to start here since the 2 people I want in my life will be here in this area. I was about to answer, but then her words struck me. 2? She smiled softly. Well, besides you, Brad also wants to move here after graduation. I expect him to call in a week or 2 to make sure you're okay. I think your parents are driving him crazy even in college, and he wants to start over too. Damn it, I said, shaking my head. Will they never learn? I wish I could find a way to stop them, but they just won't stop. I'm sorry for Brad too, she said quietly. He shouldn't have to go through this either. As for your parents, I think Karen still talks to them daily. Okay, I grinned. Maybe they'll adopt her. This is a very scary thought. Deirdre laughed. I felt my heart jump at the sound of her laughter. It reminded me of much better days when the anger and pain weren't so intense. Billy, I'm not looking for any guarantees or promises. Well, that's not entirely true. It would be more accurate to say that I do not expect any promises or guarantees. What I'm looking for is a chance to start over. I really want to do this with you as a part of this, even if it's a small part. Well, she said, taking a deep breath, what do you think about it? My thoughts were racing. I was both excited and flattered that she wanted to move closer to me. To some extent, I felt like I was being manipulated into making a decision. On the other hand, I felt like I was given another chance. I didn't try to get Deirdre out of my life. It was more in response to the situation and all the pressure I was feeling at the time. Then I needed to completely separate from her, and it developed into something adamant. Now this pressure has disappeared. No one but me was pulling the strings. I still felt pain and betrayal, but they were no longer as stunning as they were then. I also knew that I still loved her, but my trust was deeply damaged. Is it possible to restore it? Perhaps, but it will take time and will never be what it was before. And yet, will it be better or worse than what it is? I looked at Deirdre and stepped back, allowing her to enter my apartment. I think you will enjoy living in these apartments. The maintenance is easy to work with and quite quiet. My decision was simple. The only way to find out is to try both possibilities. I can continue to date other women, but also Deirdre. How long this will last is anyone's guess. I think I'll probably end up only dating Deirdre at some point. She definitely has an inner way to my heart. She knows me better than any of the women I might date, but she's also dealing with the ghost of our past marriage, and that will never completely go away. Will I ever get married again? I doubt. Being exclusive with Deirdre or Celia or Lori or even whoever sounds good to me. Marriage, very doubtful. With my broken marriage and failed engagement in the past, I doubt I'll ever want to get married again. But who knows? Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.